Okay.
All right, everybody, we're just going to wait about a minute here, maybe more like 30 seconds, and then just to let everybody sort of get their Zooms set up here. And then we'll begin. Since I just opened the room for everybody here. All right, while folks are coming in, I'll do my little intro spiel here. I want to welcome everybody. I want to thank you all for attending today's P&A Senate webinar in our Professional Development and Enrichment series. My name is Alex Badges, and I'm a P&A Senator from CFANS, serving on the Subcommittee for Professional Development and Enrichment. And we're delighted to see such a great turnout for today's event, which is entitled Tips for Effective Meetings. It will be co-presented by Lisa Hinz and Jody Horntevet. Lisa is an associate extension professor and educator with the University of Minnesota Extension, specializing in leadership and civic engagement. Jody is an extension educator, also with a program focus in leadership and civic engagement, serving primarily the Northwest region of Minnesota. We are excited to have both of them join us today, and I'll invite them to give short bios of themselves before they begin. But before we do that, I want to quickly preview today's event and let you know how it's going to work. Lisa and Jody have noted that regardless of your role during a meeting, whether it be leader, facilitator, contributor, listener, what have you, there are 6 key areas that deserve and need your attention. During this session, you'll learn guidelines for agenda planning and facilitation, as well as those 6 key tools for having more effective meetings. These tips will help you to create the meetings you actually want to attend. Imagine that. They've also noted that today's webinar is intended to be interactive to the extent that you all are interested in that. So we've enabled polls, we've enabled Q&A, we've enabled chat. So we're going to be using each of those elements at various points in time today. So if you want to, please take a moment to locate the associated buttons at the bottom of your screen in case you'd like to participate. I'll also note that the speakers plan to leave a few minutes at the end for your questions, and we'll leave it to them to decide how exactly we want to field those. So locate the chat and Q&A functions at the bottom of the screen at some point so that you're ready for that. Today, we also have Barb, who's here assisting us with moderation. So if you end up with any technical questions or concerns, you can send a chat message to me or Barb at any time if you'd like some help. Lastly, I'll just sort of note that I'm in my living room today because we just recently adopted a rescue dog, and she is not housebroken yet, nor does she like being in her kennel. So it's actually better for everybody if she's out here and I'm out here watching her. But if I have to suddenly disappear from view or mute, that is why. And I apologize to everybody in advance for that. With all the logistics out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and Jody. So take it away whenever you guys are ready.
And so thank you for the invitation to be here, part of this session today. Lisa and I we're fans of better meetings. I myself do a lot of teaching around facilitation, And I really enjoy building facilitation skills in others, because when we all have more skills, our meetings are likely to be more effective. And so my hope for today is that you'll find at least one. One is all I'm hoping for. More would be over the top tip or new idea that you can take to use in your next meeting. And Lisa?
Right. Hello and welcome to all of you who are here. Like Jody, I'm really interested in and been actively practicing improving my facilitation skills. It's like a lifelong skill set for me. As it turns out, it's also a mindset. And I'm going to go back to the title of our webinar today, the subtitle, Creating the Meetings You Want to Attend. That is my tagline. And I don't mean that like it's a throwaway. I mean that like I try to live that in the sense that I want to create the meetings I want to attend. I want to create meetings I want to attend, and I want to create meetings I want to attend. Because every time I ask people, how many of you like meetings? Raise your hand. Most people do not. And yet we get such important work done when we come together, that while I'm being a little bit playful with words, I'm also really playfully serious about how we can create the meetings we want to attend. And so I hope, like Jody said, you get a tip or two that you leave today refreshed in some way, or that you're finding yourself going, I think I might change my mindset a little bit, not just my skill set, but my mindset, so that I am creating the kind of meetings I and others, the people that we want to create important work together. I also want to give a shout out to my extension colleagues. I see some of you are on here. I can't see faces, but I see some names, and I'm really grateful that I'm part of extension, as is Jody, and we get to do such great work, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to share some of that with you. With that, then, I'm going to lead us into our first activity, which is to ask you, just how distracted are you today? And with that, I'll ask Jody to go ahead. We're going to have a poll here in just a moment that rates from 1, where the webinar is a background noise while you're catching up on your work, up to 5, that maybe we have your rapt attention and you're one with us. And so I'm going to launch that poll and invite you to respond. And no shame, no blame. We all got stuff that we're trying to handle, right? And maybe the recording is what you're going to watch again later. And right now, I'm just going to invite you to let us know. It also helps us, right? When we're in meetings, if we have a sense of like, hey, so-and-so just can't be as present, they're not feeling well, or maybe they've got an important thing they also have to do, because somehow multitasking is how we got to get stuff done, even though it lowers the quality, the overall quality of our work. Yes, there's research about this. And so that quality of like, hey, let's see how we're going to be present. And it looks like most everybody's participated. So I'm going to share those results with you because it's good for us all, right? I'm not going to hold all the power and say, just out my meeting, Jody, we're going to hold that and you don't get to know. And it looks like many of you are in that sort of mid-range. A few of you are in that end of like, I'm wrapped, I'm one with you. And that upper 3, 4, 5. And some of you just need to have this be background. And I get that. And yet you did the poll. So hooray, because we created a way for you to engage actively, right? Actively, because we're not at the movies, we're actually in a participatory environment. And that's what we're really seeking to do. So with that, I will turn it over to Jody. And thank you for that first active participation.
And we will ask questions as we go through our time together today for you to reflect and sort of center yourself. And so my first question for you is where do you typically find yourself? What role do you find yourself in a meeting? Are you a listener or a participant? You're there, you're engaging, you're participating, but you're more there to listen rather than being in that leadership role, which is planning the agenda, doing those pieces, all of the elements around that. Or do you find yourself in a contributor role, where maybe you're invited in to be providing data and information, and that's a different sort of a setting than leading the meeting, and it's also different than being in a listener space. So where do you find yourself? I will ask you to think about that. And did we have a poll for this one, Lisa?
We do.
And so if you would launch that would be great.
There you go. Oh my goodness, I've never seen such fast participation as I'm seeing with this group. Way to go, Alex, Molly, Barb, Angela. It's like these people they're in it right on. Okay, it looks like Oh my goodness.
They're still weighing in.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
we play multiple roles. And I know that I myself have played all three of those roles. And so I really am asking, yeah, it's all of the above. It really is. But where's that typical? And it's a way of sort of setting your mindset today as we talk about this information, because what we're going to be learning today and talking about will apply to all three of those roles, but in slightly different ways. So if Lisa would like to share those results, I think most people who are going to contribute are probably there.
Most typical. Yeah. Yeah. We've got somebody in the chat who's saying they wish they were a leader more often. I'd be most effective if I saw a rescue dog. So Alex, I think that's a call out for you to engage your new family member.
Well, and this notion of I wish I were a leader more often, you have those opportunities, and the more you build your skills and take that next step to step in, hopefully the pieces that we're going to share today will give you more of that confidence to be in that role.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm
as
going
someone
to
said, they have to be all three in one meeting, right? Like I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you.
And we're there. So the piece is that I offer this because we all have an opportunity to lead from where we are. We lead from where we're sitting in that room. And if our role is as a listener, then we need to come prepared with key questions and then look for the answers throughout the meeting space. If we're there as the leader, we need to know the issues. We need to track who's been involved up until this point. We need to know resources that are available. And if we're the contributor, we really need to come prepared. We should anticipate questions we might be asked, so we're prepared to answer in those ways. And so again, it's about thinking about the role you're in at the time and be able to be prepared in the way that you need to do that. And you'll want to do your best. Taking notes and looking for the best questions to ask and working your way through all of those things are really important. And so ask yourself this question. Make note as we go through the next slides, and we're going to move really quickly through a lot of these tips and sharing a lot of information. But consider, as we move through these slides, how can I lead from where I am in the meeting? And with that, I'm going to turn it to the first tips, because we have several. These are the 6 things. We're going to go through these areas regardless of where you are in the room. These are 6 things that you'll want to be mindful of and pay attention to. Lisa.
With that, I get to start us off with doing the homework. And as it turns out, that's going to be a chunk of our time here, because the preparation is a key element of it. And so we call it the 8 Ps. And they begin with perspective, having an understanding of the group, why it exists. And we're going to go through a couple of these in particular. So I'm going to, we'll get deep here in just a moment. Jody, if you could back up for just a minute.
Oh, sure.
So we've got perspective, people, product, place, process, and practice and personal preparation. So we have a link actually that we'll share at the end with a handout. And there's a blog article that we have that goes into to follow up on these 8 Ps. So if you're thinking to take notes, and that's fine, know that we're going to give you something that will refresh you on this as well. So with that, then I think we'll go right to go to perspective. So that we included questions on each of these. This perspective is really about getting that understanding on the front end of the mission of the group or the organization. If it's your own work team, you probably take that for granted in some ways, but I do find myself, we just had a staff meeting this week. I find myself taking the moments, even as a participant or contributor to that group. I'm not the team leader. I'm leaders of little teams within it. But I find myself thinking, okay, what's our point here? We had a mini team meeting after the large group yesterday, and we really reached a point where it's like, what is it? Is this a team that needs to continue? Do we really need to be doing this work at this time, or is it time to put a pause out there? So on that front end, what's that purpose, that mission of that team, that group, that organization? What kind of structure are you working with? If it's ad hoc, then come and go, be clear about that. Some of us need those teams that are just short term. We are part of them for a short amount of time, and then we're moving on. And there are other groups like the work team that I'm part of, that larger group that met this week, my staff team, where I'm going to be part of that for as long as I'm part of this organization, right? And so that organizational structure is like, I'm building those relationships, I'm working on them over time, and I'm aware of what's the context of the group that I'm working with. Being alert to how those decisions are made. Is it my decision? Is it my boss's decision? I mean, all of us are in the university. We work in different parts of the university, I know. And many of you are part of that P&A sentiment. It's like, okay, well, what's the decision structure? Is it advisory? You know, sometimes we can get so engaged that we feel like, hey, we didn't get to influence that. Being alert to when it's advisory, when it's somebody else's decision to make, and you're just providing influence or information. And then what leadership looks like. How is that? And leadership in the broadest sense, not just who's the formal leader, but what kind of influence is being exerted, and what influence do you have, and how might you use it effectively? So let's go to the next one, Jody.
And so with purpose, that's that second P. And really, with that, it builds right on the one that Lisa was just sharing, right? It's to understand what the group or organization views as a successful meeting or an event before you even get into the planning of that meeting, and how you're going to measure those results and do all those pieces. That's so important. So some of the questions you might want to ask to determine your group's needs and expectations are listed there on the screen. You know, like, to ask them even up front, like, what if this meeting goes well, what will it look like in your mind? Like, what is the outcomes that you hope to see? What do we need to achieve in this meeting to meet those needs, and be mindful. And you might not ask this in the meeting, you might ask this before the meeting. Many times if I'm pre-planning something and we've got a short amount of time, I will go to the people, the participants, and talk with them about that. And I think also the atmosphere we want to create in order to accomplish results is to say to people, like, how do you want to be involved? How do you want to be engaged? And how can we make that happen? How can we make this a comfortable space for you, a space that you want to be in, that you want to be a part of? And so having those conversations either inside the meeting or at the end of the meeting, and you're getting ready for the next meeting or the follow-up, or just in advance one-on-one with some of the participants to really determine and be clear about the purpose. Then there's also the people, and thinking through and knowing the dynamics and sort of the where there might be conflicts between individuals in a space, because that does happen. I mean, I know there are times when we can be frustrated by a meeting because there's things going on unknown to us, or even if they are known to us, how we are able to navigate some of those pieces. I had a presenter or speaker once share with me, the highest level of trust within any group is at the lowest level of trust between any two people in that meeting. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. And so being aware of some of those things that are going on between people, there are also some of the biases or preconceived ideas they might have, or just other barriers that might be getting us in the way to being successful in our meetings. And it's really important to map that out and be mindful of that, and at times maybe address that, have a conversation about that in the space of the meeting. So Lisa, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. I just have a little cough in my throat, so I had to mute for a moment. So product. This can be very similar to purpose, Jody just talked about, but this is a bit more specific. Purpose is why we're meeting. Product is what are we producing as a result of the meeting. And so here are the questions you want to consider. And, you know, some of this can sound like, hey, I'm facilitating a group I'm not part of it, but this is also about the groups we are part of as well. What'll be delivered? You know, are we looking for decisions? Are we looking for a report? Are we looking for some progress on an activity or an event or something we're working on, whether it's curriculum or an event that we're organizing? What's the most important thing we need to accomplish? Sometimes part of the accomplishment is about those relationships and building trust. Jody just mentioned the people, and I'm willing to bet if we pause for a moment and you think about what the hardest part of some of your meetings is, for some of you, there might be some people issues, some human, those social skills or those people skills things that people aren't getting along, or there's some sort of interpersonal conflict. So some of that might need to be in that thinking about the product that we're trying to build trust here. How might we do that? And what documentation do we walk out of the room with? Is it, actually, we had this conversation a little bit before all of you guys came on. where it was like, do we need notes or whatever? And so part of the reason Jody and I mentioned that that we have a handout for you that will get emailed, and I see some folks were asking about slides, that's some of the product of today's meeting, the documentation, and it may not be for some formal purpose, but it does help to, what did we do in the meeting? What can I remember? And when we meet next time, do we have notes that I can look back on and go, oh yeah, that's right, we did decide that, or oh, we talked about that, I just have to refresh myself. So that's our preparation on product. Jody?
And then when we move to the number 5 of the 8 P's is place. And we laugh in extension, as extension educators, we laugh that we haven't met a meeting room, even a Zoom space, that we couldn't rearrange, because we're constantly trying to make it that best environment and that best place. But it begins by thinking through a number of things. And if you're not paying attention to that, just any room won't do. You have to set up the space and the environment for things to be effective, whether it's having the right technology in place, whether it's just how people are able to see each other. My horror is a meeting with a small number of people on a really long, skinny table that you can't see people talking down at the other end. But thinking through, how can we best do this? How can we engage in conversation in a way that honors what people have to bring to this, and brings people together, makes them feel a part of and connected? And so thinking about that, don't leave, the identification and selection of the physical space to someone else. If you're leading the meeting, think about that. Even if you're the contributor, you can also say, hey, here's what I'm going to be sharing and presenting. It would be helpful for me if I had this, and this available. And thinking through in virtual spaces about use of breakout rooms and how we might engage in conversations or documents that you might create for people to link to have shared notes. All of those things need to be a part of that. You also need to think about any special needs. Do we need a microphone? Do we have people with who are not able to hear as well? Or maybe there's fans and things blowing in the background that you need to be able to work around, or seat people in a different place, seat people next to each other in certain ways. And again, all that equipment. Do we have the space? We can plan on using flip charts and we get there and there's, it's not going to happen. Also to be flexible and be prepared and think of those backup plans for those moments. So that's just a really important part to set the tone for any kind of meeting or space that you're in.
All right. So we're moving on to process. And again, P number 6, and this is of a larger group of 6 tips. So this is tip 1 around preparation. And so when we're talking about process, once we've done the previous ones, the purpose, the people, the place, you're in a position then to start working on what is it that you need to design, what process is going to fit that unique need, that situation and the needs. And there's a lot of processes for decision making, for problem solving, strategic planning. I usually start with a pretty clear agenda, and I name the goals on the front end. And I often work with others to do that, because I find that if I do it by myself, there can be that quality of like, I know stuff, but I don't know it all. And it depends on the group, right? Some groups are small enough that it's like, I'm the lead, I do that. And then I invite additions when we do meet, just in case I miss something. And because I want to engage others. It's not my meeting, it's our meeting, right? It's not mine, it's ours. Again, going back to that, creating the kind of meetings we want to attend. And so, paying attention to those individual items where, I put controversy or difficult things. I don't make them be the first thing. But I put them in the early part of the meeting, because, if there's things that are challenging for people, they can warm up a little bit, but we don't save it till the end. So we're cramming. And so you see the questions here on the slide here. Do you need dissemination, discussion, or decision? I call these the 3 Ds. And actually our work team had a real shift a number of years ago. Jody, I think, probably remembers, it's maybe like 10 or 12 years ago now, where we went, wow, we're getting sort of mired in things. Is this something we need to talk over? Is it something we need information? We're getting information shared, dissemination. Is it something we need to talk over, the discussion part, or are we deciding today, right? Like, are the other things, we've gotten the information, we've had the discussion, is it time to move on, right? Because people come to their decision-making in different, some of us are quick move it along, deciders and others want to take more time and want to be more inclusive, right? When we're more inclusive, it takes more time, right? But when you slow down to be inclusive, you can, and you find that you've kind of set the dissemination, discussion, decision, then you can move a little more quickly. You have to be a little explicit about that.
Well, you know, Lisa, and you say inclusive, it's also with intention as well. And even noting that on the agenda that says, we're just here to share this information, or we're here to discuss this today, or we're here today, we've been discussing it, we're here to make a decision. And even putting that on the agenda makes it clear so people have those expectations too.
Yeah, exactly. It's that setting and living through the expectations as well. Thank you for that, Jody. And that really sets up a good flow for the agenda, right? I've mentioned already, sort of that warm up or the getting, you know, and in a way we did that today. We have a little bit of the intros in the front. So as people are coming, trying to squeeze in lunch or a bathroom break or something, right, between all the other things that are going on in a day, that flow of the agenda, then we get to the heart of the meeting later. And then we have that time for wrap up and how much time do you need for each item? What tools can you use? What kind of decision-making tools? We obviously, in less than an hour's time, can't cover everything. However, that's part of the reason we have the sheet for you to take later. But I also want to prime you because we're going to ask you later on in an activity, we're going to invite you to share some of your ideas for engaging people, how to help people feel welcome and belonging. You know, do you have some icebreakers, some openers? Things that you do, or, you know, how do you set up the space? Jody's just mentioned that can also create welcome. You know, if we get into a traditional, like leader in the front, people sitting in rows, like a class, like maybe your elementary school classroom, that may not be the case for some, but that is a different kind of welcome than looking around the table. We'll also invite your thoughts about how to create a good agenda or what a good agenda includes, how to share ideas and get input. How do you do that? And how do you help others be more invested in the work of the group or the meeting? So we'll invite you to share your ideas later, and then those ideas others will get to see. Yeah, I'm just going to prime you a little bit because I know some folks like to, you know, that advanced thinking time, and we'll have that linked on the handout so that you can go back and check those out as well. So we want to tap the wealth of this group, not just me and Jody. We know we don't know it all. We just want to share and prime others as well. So with that, then I want to go to the second part of process, which is about parliamentary procedure, right? And here I'm just going to start off by mentioning, you know, parliamentary procedure. Oftentimes we feel like some groups feel like they need to use it all the time, and others not so much. And it really grew out of those earliest days of democratic governance during Greek and Roman times. I don't think any of us were around for that, but just in case. The intent is to provide a system for inclusive and respectful meetings because it protects the rights of minority and absent members, right? It's basically giving those who have the least voice at least a chance, because, you know, when it's majority rule, it's like, ooh, how do we bring others into the conversation, or unpopular opinions, right? So the most widely said of things is Robert's rules. And the challenge is that sometimes parliamentary procedure, because there are certain ways you got to do things, can be exclusive rather than inclusive. So we have, on the handout, we've got a number of items, including video, on some of the basics of parliamentary procedure. But I want to invite actually, I've shared a little bit of background, but I want to invite you to share a little bit about how often you use parliamentary procedure. And I'm just going to invite those of you on the call to weigh in on that. How often do you use parliamentary procedure in your meetings? Oh my. I'm going to share the results here when we get them in, but I do find, and I've done some training for some of the governor's appointed commissions, ethnic commissions, and it's been kind of an aha for people to realize, like, we don't have to use parliamentary procedure for everything. We can use it when we must. And of course, they work also with advising the legislature, right? So there are times when those are absolutely fundamental. And it's not the only way to make decisions. So I'm seeing most folks, there's been a slowdown in participation on the poll. So I'm going to close the poll and share the results. It looks like most of you never use it. Some of you sometimes, about 38%, and some 1% of you use it very often. And so hopefully those people who use it often, It's like, oh, okay. Well, you may find that you could be teaching the parliamentary procedure program. And for those who haven't, I'll remind you, and Jody, you can click when to use it, is really around when the issues are complex or divisive, when groups are larger and more diverse. I mean, I mentioned the legislature for a good reason. We have that in part because it helps make those complex decisions. We need some processes. We can't just have a free-for-all. And when the stakes are significant. Those are all important reasons to use that parliamentary procedure. And with a Senate body, that formalizes some of the decision-making. And so that basic understanding and the practices, we don't get into that here because it's a little more complex than we have time for, but we mean them as a means to an end, not an end in itself. And it's ultimately a way to practice a respectful democracy. And so, perhaps in the Senate, well, not perhaps, I know in the Senate that's required at times, right? I've been in the Senate years ago. And other times there are other options, right? So ultimately, we want to help people work effectively and treat each other with respect and listen to viewpoints. And so if you're doing that, you may not need Robert's rules or other parliamentary procedure. But if there's a formal need, or you find that you have those situations where that's complexity or significant stakes, you might want to go in that direction. So with that, then I'm going to pass it over to Jody.
And on these last two items of this 8 Ps, I'm just going to run through them rather quickly. They are kind of common sense, but I just want to make note to not overlook them, that practice is really important. So I usually like to do a dry run of the process in my head before meetings. It's a really important step, because when I do this, I might be able to identify areas that might need adjustments or things I might have missed. And visualizing and rehearsing the meeting or anticipating those problems that could pop up really helped me develop a contingency plan. And having that in place, not that I would ever get to that, but that I would, if plan A isn't working, I could go to B or C or even D sometimes. And that happens both in-person meetings and online, to be able to work through that. And so doing that sort of dry run in my head to visualize that is really important. So I encourage you to add that as one of those essential 8 Ps of a good meeting. And then the final one, or I should say the day of the meeting, then it's to get there ahead of time too. Test your equipment, make sure things are ready. We did that today. We do that often in Zoom spaces, but even when you're in a meeting room, just to make sure things are set up the way you want to do. And the most important part about arriving early is that you can center yourself so that you're not feeling rushed at the last minute, because if you're feeling rushed, people will pick up on that. And that is not a good space. And then also, visualize yourself doing just a bang up meeting. It's going to be a successful meeting. Things are going to go well today. The self-talk can never go wrong if your self-talk is about facilitating a successful meeting. And then finally, the whole notion of personal preparation. If you're not ready to perform or be on at your game, and this is whether you're leading, presenting, or just participating in that space, and being an effective participant in that moment is really important. So in addition to that walk through the agenda, whether I'm leading or presenting or whatever that might be, I also like to make sure I eat well. I know I need some protein to sustain me. Sometimes I get up, move around, take a brisk walk. That exercise also helps prepare me physically and mentally. And these 3 areas of just being ready to lead a meeting and guide or present or just be present are so important, or we're not our best and our meetings are not at their best. So with Lisa, you want to recap?
Yeah. So ultimately, we've spent a lot of time on doing your homework in the 8 Ps because they are so fundamental. As the quote on the screen says here, proper preparation and practice prevent poor performance. I call that the 6 Ps, right? When we prepare, we prevent that poor performance. And I will pause, sorry, so many Ps, right? That in some ways we've used the word performance, but I don't think of our engagement here as a performance so much as I think of being of service. Like we're about being of service to each other. And that's ultimately what our meetings are for. It's not about performing for each other so much as we are in service of whatever purpose or goals that we're trying to work on when we work together. So with that, I'll pass over to Jody.
Thanks for that last little recap there, because that really is important, Lisa. And we did mention we had these 6 tips early on, and we got through tip 1. And our intention was those are so critical of being ready to go. And these last 5 of those 6 tips we're gonna mention and give you an opportunity to just make note of them. And it's always about learning more and digging deeper for yourselves. And so our sheet at the end will share that as well. But you need to pay attention. Learn to read the room. Sometimes having a co-leader for a meeting can be really helpful. But if you're participating, you can be reading the room and helping out. And so what you need to do is, I'm going to actually list, I'm not going to talk deeply about the 5 C's. Now we went from P's to C's, but it does help us think in groups of things sometimes. And so paying attention to the context, the purpose, we talked about that, but that can also help you read the room and assess the energy. And the clusters of behavior are really important, and thinking about facial expressions and posture and body language. And it's easier to read what's going on in the room if we pay attention to all of those things rather than a single gesture of what might be happening and going on in that space. And congruence is also an important part. And you've probably seen these statistics before, but this notion of, do people pay attention to the words, the tone of voice, or the body language? And many times it's the body language that people pick up on. People ask me, how do you do this in an online meeting space? If you have a co-lead with you, that can be really helpful, of watching body language also. But tone of voice and the words used come into play. But if you have to really go with something, body language is often the most telling of people's reactions to things. They'll cross their arms, they'll lean back in their chair, they'll lean in if they're engaged. It's finding those subtle things, but paying attention to that in alignment with words and tone are also really helpful. The last 2 of those 5 C's are really about considering consistency and people's behaviors over time. Get to know the people in your meetings, their baseline language of how they communicate and how they interact in those ways can all be really valuable. Then you notice inconsistencies when they're having an off day. I can pick that up in Lisa in a heartbeat because I've worked with her enough and I know that something's not right. And then you can ask people, say, have we missed something? Do we need to come back? You can read that when you pay attention to people who are in your room. And then also culture and heritage is really important. Our heritage does influence us and how we use our body to communicate. Some are very stoic, others, I'm kind of a hand gesture person, you may have noticed. I tend to gesture a lot with my hands. There's all of those elements in there that when you start paying attention to that, you can know when people are more animated. People who work with me in meetings, if I'm sitting on my hands, it means I'm trying not to talk. I may have something to say, but I'm not going to be jumping in. And so it's paying attention to all of those things. So a final tip to remember here is that whether you're in a video meeting or in person, your body sends messages indicating whether you're actively listening, fully engaged, or checked out or aloof. So keep in mind, you're going to be a much better communicator if you can pay attention to these 5 C's.
Right. A couple of quick things. One is to keep those meetings small or smaller, 7 people plus or minus 2. I'd even say minus 3 sometimes. 3 to 6 is a really good sized groups. And what we find from the research is that meetings with the highest productivity, the output, are groups of 5 to 8 people. And I think the number's higher, it lowers the productivity. I bet if we were to engage in conversation even on this, we would find, yep, we get to 9, 10, 11, 12 or more. It's hard. That's why I will organize small group conversations within a larger meeting. And again, not rocket science, right? But they're practices that when we don't use them can lead to some of the domination of some voices because some of us more readily speak up or we don't speak up, right? And I saw a quick question in the chat, or a question in the chat about improving the equity practices in a meeting. And this could be one of them, or a contributor, right? There's no one thing you do, but I will say some of that small group conversation allows for voices to be heard in a larger group that might otherwise be drowned out or not included because some folks will speak up more readily. And Jody just talked about cultural approaches. And so I think that's one aspect. There may be more that comes up here as we go forward. I'll go to the next one as well, Jody, and tip 4 is watching the clock. We're doing that here, right? But here, ultimately, this is actually about how long are your meetings? You know, we just had a staff meeting that was over the course of 3 days online. Ooh, it was a lot. We were exhausted by yesterday afternoon, and we weren't on the whole time, just so you know. We try to practice what we teach. One of the really interesting pieces is that regular super short meetings, that 15-minute meeting, is really, maybe there are ways, especially online, where you can jump on, do a short thing, and move on. Maybe if that's not a practice that you've had, look for ways that you might be able to practice one of those focused meetings. And that can free up people's energy so that maybe sometime when I invite people to say, how many of you like meetings, more people will raise their hands or say, yeah, actually, meetings is a great way for us to get stuff done. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Jody, because I am watching the clock.
Well, and tip number 5 of those 6 tips for effective meetings is be the DRI. And that's the directly responsible individual. And we know that whether we are the listener, the contributor, or that meeting leader, we need to own that. And we need to actually use our gifts. Some people are good at organizing and making phone calls or designing flyers or spreading the word or scheduling the next meeting. And all are really important. When you can team up and have more people responsible for various parts of your meetings, you're much further ahead. I am not the person to keep things scheduled. I have people who I love to hang out with, who are going to be the ones who remind and say, don't we need to do this? Don't we need to schedule this? All of that. And what happens is when people are held accountable then by others, they take a greater interest in completing those tasks. And that can be a really valuable thing. And this actually, I encourage you to be the directly responsible individual. And I also know that you probably have some great tips about this and how you have found things that work to engage others. And so right now, Lisa is going to put a link in the chat to a Padlet. We also have a QR code on the screen that you could also do, but it's about how do we engage others, be responsible, and help others be responsible in our spaces, because we are more likely to own the work if we're connected to it. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to switch my view here for a second, and I'm going to bring up what we use this Padlet tool a lot, and we're going to invite you to click on that link and bring that up into our shared space here. And it'll allow you a chance. There's 3 categories there for you to weigh in. Oh, snacks. Great. Someone's already added a comment there. And you can like these comments if you really like something that someone's put there. But there's 3 columns here. And so feel free to pick one of those categories. And how do you involve people in creating the agenda? Or how do you get people to share ideas and their input? Any of those elements there for one of those. And if you're not feeling like you have ideas, read through these lists. You can use the toolbar on the side here to scroll down and see the comments. So I love this tool because we can learn from all of you. And there are like well over 100 people in this space. Think of all the great ideas, Lisa, that we're going to gain from this.
I've also mentioned in the chat, there may be folks for whom this isn't accessible right now. And so if the chat is accessible, you're welcome to post things there, and I will add them to this Padlet because we want to make it as possible for folks to participate.
Yeah, and leave space to talk. I'm just going to grab a few of them randomly as people are putting those in. If you design your agenda with space to talk, not just rush through those elements, then people have that opportunity to share ideas and offer input. And you build that in as a regular part. Maybe give it a fun name even, right? Like we're going to use this time to be able to share ideas and all of that space. So I love these. Is there one that sticks out for you, Lisa?
Oh, I'm just getting a chance to, I see a lot of welcome conversation and such. I encourage adding things, surveys and questions and addressing at the meeting. Yep. There's so much here. It's like, I'm trying to look through them quickly. I'm impressed with how quickly people were able to add stuff. Give them a ton of money. Ooh, wait. Yeah. And you'll notice actually all of you who are in the Padlet, you have the opportunity if you like something or you want to add a comment. I added a comment in the first column around using pronouns. And having that be, you'll notice on my name, I believe on my view, I don't show my own screen, so I think it's on there. Yeah, that I add my pronouns, even though Zoom seems to say, they ask about remember for every meeting. It's like, nope, it goes away half the time. So I always have to check, but making sure you include those pronouns as you are part of a meeting so that that's known, and also doing that verbally. So you can add things. I see, start with a centering activity. Somebody asks, how do you do this without some feeling like it's dumb? I often will say, and we won't get to respond to everything, but I will say, one of the things, like if I do a check-in and I say, hey, hey, it's coming to winter's starting soon. As a little warm up for our gathering, let's go around the room. What's something people like about winter? Here's something useful to know. When people speak earlier in the meeting, if people speak in the first 10 to 15 minutes, there's research that shows they're more likely to speak up later.
Thank you for that reminder, Lisa. And that's why although in this space, we didn't allow people to speak up, we did engage you multiple times to begin with, because we value you. And we knew you'd be more likely, if you were engaged early on, to add to this Padlet. And I'm loving what I see here. The link to this Padlet will be in the tip sheet that we share at the end. So you can go back into it and say, oh, we went to that training. I want to go back, and maybe people have added some ideas there. Because I know I'm going to add one to here's how I involve people in creating the agenda. I'm not going to do it now because I'm talking and typing works, but I'd rather not. But one of my favorite ways is I build the next agenda at the end of the meeting we're at. And I get input from people to say, what do we need to make sure we include next time? And I include that as an agenda item to make sure that everyone has that opportunity to have that input and say, here's what I think we need to spend our time on next time, and have the group discuss that. And then maybe even assign some roles for people in advance so that they have that chance to work on it between now and the next meeting. So with that, is there anything else here that, we got some tools, the FIST of 5 or processes to use. Have people share what they're excited about. I'm in the far column now, looking at get people more invested in the work. All of those pieces.
Beautiful. I will say
yeah.
there's a little, there is an element. I'll just pause for a moment. We're going to move toward the end here pretty quickly, but being kind of alert to some of the things Jody said earlier about body language and culture. There was the comment or the curiosity about increasing equity, if I understood it correctly, and having an attitude of openness to feedback and such, because not everybody, I'm looking even at about the doing some kind of check-in or centering activity without it feeling dumb. It's like, so some people may feel uncomfortable, and sometimes the great gift you can have if you're leading the meeting or even as a participant, right? We have great team that I'm part of, that it's like, hey, this can feel a little awkward, but you know what? It can help us move into better decision-making, or it helps us to respect different ways of seeing or knowing things. And so raising that up, making it known to the rest of the group can be a really valuable way that you as a leader or you as a participant can really help others to recognize that active participation may look different for different people. And sometimes it'll feel a little awkward, and that's okay. Because as Jody knows, I will say, we all have our comfort zone, right? It's where we feel like, oh, that feels good. I feel comfortable. And then right outside that is our growth zone. In education, it's like we're learning, right? Well, learning isn't always comfortable, right? But as we learn, we actually are growing our comfort zone. So when we're in a group or in a meeting where we're actually helping others or helping ourselves to get more comfortable with a new way or another way of doing things, that's growing our comfort zone. That's respecting others and seeing that even when we have a different way of thinking about something or a different perspective, that we can actually hear someone else and still be civil and respectful.
Yes. And as Lisa mentions that, the fine line there is moving people into that growth zone, but not into the panic zone. And there again, it goes back to knowing the people, who's in the room, who you're working with. And I just saw a chat pop up that I want to just take because Alex put a note there about someone working to make people feel valued for their positive contributions. I like to always follow up after, if not in the meeting space, sometimes we'll do a go around and have people honor what's people brought to the meeting in the conversation, and sort of do a popcorn around the room, or someone say something about the person next to them that they appreciated. in those spaces. But I often will send an email. I will follow up in some way, one-on-one with a person, to say, when you shared that, I really appreciated that. When we go deep into our facilitation training, creating meetings that we want to attend involves not always lifting up the bad behaviors as much as it is lifting up the behaviors, the positive behaviors that we want to see. And sometimes we have to have conversations about those negative behaviors or things that are bringing the group down. But the more we can lift up the positive behaviors and the things that are working well, the more likely we are to have better meetings along that. And so the final tip of 6 that I want to highlight is number 6, and it's on the screen right now, I do believe. And that's really follow up and be committed. And in these ways that you can do that is just take responsibility. If you say you're going to do something, do it. But also be willing to ask for help if you don't know how to do something, or if you're leading the meeting, you can't do it all, or leading the work, and you ask others to say, I could really use your help. You're really good at this. I appreciate that. Sometimes people are waiting to be asked. Recognize that mistakes happen. We have to be easy on ourselves sometimes, that things happen and mistakes happen, and be able to own that and apologize if that's what it takes, and be able to move to that space of recognizing that, and then just supporting others, giving away tasks, giving away things without micromanaging is really important part about that. And it's about keeping the momentum going, and follow up and being committed is really about just being mindful of what that is and what does commitment mean. And it really is this persistence with a purpose, committing to what's necessary to make those goals happen. And when you are committed and you follow through and you do what you say you're going to do, people will trust you more, and you'll build that relationship in new ways. And it's about knowing what you want to achieve, developing a plan, following through. And I'd like to sum it up about be committed. That keeps the momentum going when you can be committed, because being committed ignites action. And it really is being able to move some things forward. It builds energy in a room and gets other people excited. And so you can build that foundation for success and growth, regardless of the role you're sitting in. You can do that as the listener in the room by encouraging, supporting others. You can do that as the contributor by making suggestions, and certainly in the leader in the way that you set things up in your meetings and all of those spaces. So this is what we come back to. Thinking for yourself, how will you lead from where you are in the meeting and create the meeting you want to attend?
All right. We have a couple of questions that need a little attention. So we're going to move into that very quickly here. But if you find yourself going, what do I do with what all I just heard? We encourage you to think about something that makes you frustrated, right? And think about how you might, either from the Padlet or something you've heard, think about what you want to change. And to that end, I'll go to the next one, because we want to encourage you to write something down. We know that writing something down, not just thinking it, but writing it down and revisiting it. So posting it where you're going to see something. It may be on your Smarty Pants phone, right? You can pull that out and write yourself a note. Whatever works for you, that you are reminded. And maybe you're just going to write active contributor, or maybe you're going to use an opening activity. I don't know what it is, but something that, if you're noticing there's some things that you need to, that there's frustrations that you want to address, pick at least one thing that over the next couple of weeks you can practice. Because the sooner you try it out, even if it doesn't go well, that's okay, right? Practice is part of the process. And so we'll just encourage you in that realm. And then I know we have a couple of questions, Jody. So I want to.
Yeah, and I was, as we move from this, the make it stick. Like, you can't see what I see in front of me. I got a lot of Post-it notes. I'm like the sticky note queen, right? I have things to remind me. I also use my bathroom mirror sometimes, because it puts it in a space to remind me and help me frame things. But one of those I just need to read. It was a quote by Robin Wall Kimmerer, the woman who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, who says, gratitude, the words that come before all else. That's the first one I look at every morning as I sit down at my desk. And it helps me think about how I frame my meetings, how I set things up, how I interact, and how I engage with people. So think about, for you, what it is that will help remind you to make some of those actions you want to take stick. So we'll move to some questions then, Lisa. How's that
Yeah,
sound?
I see it. It's hard to keep up when we were doing, so I'm just looking at some of this now. I don't know if
Yes.
you've gotten to, but I see one about talking through an example of a contingency plan or how you adapted your facilitation when the meeting turned into something you weren't anticipating. So it depends, right? Like that often is my response. But what I will say, and this actually was our case yesterday afternoon in our staff meeting. Our boss had one plan and we had something else. And, you know, our group was just in a different space and she respected that. And we actually had the conversation we were ready to have instead of the one that was planned. And so in that realm, I think I would say to you that part of it is if you're leading to be mindful that the folks in the meeting may not be at a place where they can go where the plan is. Sometimes if there's a needed decision, right? Like I mentioned the legislature earlier, there's a deadline, right? You either meet it or you don't have a session close. There's sometimes when those things need to happen, but many times I think in our own groups and team meetings, there's a way in which honoring what's real builds trust and gets what needs to happen. Yeah, so I'll pause with that. And I know we're tight on time, Jody, so I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, I grabbed a question from the chat, but if you would like to launch the Zoom poll, we could do that and then continue to respond to questions until Alex says you have to stop. You've done enough. Our brains are overfull and we just need to move on. But if you want to launch that poll, Lisa, there was the question in here about how do we move people off onto another topic. They're focusing on something about, you know, they know how the group functions, is the past politics of the group without overstepping. There are a lot of different techniques about moving people in those ways. Sometimes you can take that conversation, put people into pairs and have them offer a suggestion on where we go with this next. You can put it in a parking lot. We use parking lots a lot to be able to set it aside. Yeah, parking lot, like don't take it out to the parking lot. That is not the place to do it. But create a space for topics that are unresolved and that we may need to be mindful of. We need to come back to this. Sometimes I will stop an agenda and say, we're here at this point in the agenda. It feels like this, we need to accomplish this, and poll the group to say, should we continue on this path and eliminate these things that we had thought we'd get to and move them to next time, but involve the group as much as you can in moving things around on your agenda and going through those pieces. And there are many other tips, but those are the first three that come to mind.
Good stuff. And people are weighing in on the let us know what you thought. How does it seem like you'll be able to use some of these concepts? And appreciate the messages in the chat as well. And we know that we haven't been able to engage that kind of deeper conversation. And yet we got some places that you might not have thought of otherwise, so that you're in that spot of creating some of those better practices in the meetings that you're leading, listening, or contributing within. And Jody, do you want me to share about 80% of our folks have participated in the poll. Do you want to have a showing? Yes,
let's show it and let them see that.
Go for it. Here we go.
And then I will advance the slides for my last words. It's nice to know that the majority of people had at least maybe that one. No one said not at all. So they at least got the one tip that I hoped would make this an okay webinar for today.
Pretty good, not too bad.
And I just go again, regardless of where you are, where you sit, from whatever chair in the room you're sitting in, you have an opportunity to create that space. And you need to own that, and you need to be creative. And sometimes it's making suggestions to the one in the front of the room because they may not be able to see what's going on. Or it's a way of making a suggestion, because from where you're sitting, you can see different perspectives and different ways of being, and you all have that opportunity to do that. So we say thank you for participating today. This was a fun, fast, and furious sort of presentation, but there you have it.
Fury in a good way. Back to you, Alex.
All right. With that, we'll close out our event today. On behalf of the entire P&A Senate, we want to thank both Lisa and Jody, our speakers today, for joining us. And thank you all for joining us. We hope that you found the presentation informative and practical. I know that I did. Links to handouts and slides, as well as to additional resources, are going to be being posted on the P&A Senate website along with a recording of today's events. The message will go out when these are ready. So I encourage you all to avail yourself of these resources as soon as they're available. Maybe make people watch them who you have meetings with, or check them out. Maybe make a meeting about how your meetings will go in the future. That might be a worthwhile endeavor. We also want to stress that those of us who are planning these events very much value your feedback and participation. And as such, we would like to ask you to fill out a survey related to today's event so that we can see how we did and what we can do in the future. You'll also be receiving a link to that via email, but here it is in the chat in case you need it. And finally, I also want to take this opportunity to encourage all attendees to consider participating in the P&A and university senates. Every voice matters. So if you are interested in learning more about Senate or university governance, please go to the University Senate website at www.usenate.umn.edu. Again, thank you to everyone who attended today, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.